OPEC has consistently advocated a balanced approach where nothing and no one should be dismissed. We need to embrace all energies.
I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down.
In the global oil market, few events carry the weight of OPEC's production decisions. Recently, OPEC Plus made headlines with unexpected production cuts, sending ripples across the market. Meanwhile, the U.S. oil industry, which has been a dominant force for years, faces new challenges. From rising competition in renewable energy and electric vehicles, EVs, to the evolving role of fossil fuels in a changing world, the question remains, is the U.S. oil industry on the brink of collapse, or is it simply navigating another cyclical shift? Let's explore. OPEC Plus recently stunned the market by announcing a series of production cuts aimed at managing global oil prices. Led by powerhouses like Saudi Arabia and Russia, this strategic move is designed to limit supply and keep prices higher in the face of an uncertain global economy. OPEC's cuts are particularly significant given their influence on global oil prices. Saudi Arabia, the de facto leader of OPEC, and Russia, a key non-OPEC player, are sending a clear message to the market. They want to control price volatility and protect their economies from the unpredictable forces of global supply and demand. These decisions aren't made lightly. OPEC Plus seeks to balance global supply and demand, often clashing with the rise of unconventional sources of oil, such as U.S. shale. But the question remains, will these cuts hold long-term? Or will they be undermined by other global forces, including the rise of alternative energy? Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the U.S. oil industry is riding a wave of record-level production. Thanks to the boom in shale oil, the U.S. has emerged as one of the world's top oil producers, achieving levels of output previously thought impossible. Shale oil has redefined the energy landscape, bringing the U.S. closer to energy independence. But this growth hasn't come without its challenges. High production costs, fluctuating prices, and growing environmental concerns are putting pressure on American producers to adapt. Adding to the pressure is the global shift toward renewable energy and electric vehicles. With countries pushing for cleaner alternatives and U.S. automakers rolling out more EVs, the oil industry is now facing questions about its long-term viability. Some critics argue that the U.S. oil industry is teetering on the brink of collapse. Financing issues, rising production costs, and the growing dominance of renewables could signal the beginning of the end for fossil fuels. The environmental push to transition away from oil is gaining traction, while production costs for shale oil are becoming less competitive. Renewables and electric vehicles are gaining market share, with global EV sales growing year after year. It's clear that the world is beginning to move away from fossil fuels, and many experts wonder if we've reached the tipping point. Could we be nearing peak oil in terms of demand? But not so fast. The U.S. oil sector has a history of resilience. Technological innovations, such as improved fracking techniques, better energy efficiency, and advanced drilling methods, have allowed the industry to keep pace with challenges. American shale operations are more flexible than ever, adjusting quickly to market shifts. OPEC's recent production cuts could have major economic implications, particularly for the U.S. As oil prices rise due to reduced supply, inflation could become a significant issue, especially for consumers who are already facing higher costs in other areas. In response, the U.S. may consider strategic measures, such as tapping into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve (SPR), to stabilize domestic prices. Diplomatic efforts to ease tensions with OPEC Plus could also play a role in mitigating the impact on U.S. consumers and producers alike. On the other side of the coin, the rise of renewable energy and electric vehicles represents a direct challenge to the fossil fuel industry. Global sales of EVs continue to grow, with electric cars becoming more affordable and accessible to consumers. This could signal the beginning of a new era where oil plays a less central role in the global energy mix. But are we truly at the brink of peak oil in terms of demand? Some experts say we're still decades away from seeing a global shift away from fossil fuels. Oil remains deeply embedded in industrial sectors, transportation, and chemicals, industries that still rely heavily on fossil fuels for production. So what's next for the U.S. oil industry? Could there be a new compromise between OPEC and American producers? If oil prices continue to climb, it may fuel a push for more renewable energy adoption, but it could also prolong the life of fossil fuels as nations seek to secure their energy needs in uncertain times. Renewable energy adoption is undoubtedly on the rise, but the path to a full transition will take time. Higher oil prices might push the world toward renewables faster, but they could also provide the oil industry with a new window of opportunity to innovate and adapt. In the end, the future of the U.S. oil industry isn't as clear-cut as some might think. With technological advancements, geopolitical forces, and the rise of alternative energy sources all playing a role, the next decade will determine whether fossil fuels remain king or if we're entering a new energy era. One thing is certain: the global energy landscape is shifting, and the U.S. oil industry must adapt or risk being left behind.